Hello, everyone. Welcome. How's it going? It's Press Play again,
It's going good.
as always. Aw, you answered. People don't. I always say, "How's it going?" in hopes that people who listen to this, like, in their own like car or wherever they're listening, they're like, "It's going okay," you know.
They
I'm
kind of
glad
talk
she
back.
asked.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured you could
Hey,
use a boost.
yeah, exactly. It's Bailey, your host, as always. And joined with me, of course, is the oh so professional Omar Zaki and Matthew Austin.
He's so professional, dude. He's so
so professional.
so
I
professional.
like to just like give the illusion that we know what we're doing sometimes.
I love it.
So I just say it.
He had to find a mic adapter about 5 minutes before we started this thing. Pressure was on, right? It's like right before the big game. It's like you need to find your
Racing
fucking
for the
shoes and
clock.
start.
It's so small, dude. It's like literally 4 or 5 inches. So like it could, dude. I'm happy I found it.
He didn't
You
bend to
hear
the
him
pressure.
rustling around back then. He's like, "Oh, it's behind my PS5." And we're like,
I got it,
"Cool."
guys. It's gonna be okay.
Oh man, but okay, this is a big ep, guys. Big ep because guess what? We're finally ending out the trilogy, the infamous trilogy of the Lord of the Rings.
Damn it! Stop! Holy crap! listen. Infamous. You've got to
I
stop.
know. I'm sorry. I know.
Dictionary.
I keep misusing the word. And I've been doing it my whole life, and no one's told me anything.
You can use it once. You've got one pass, and that's gonna be next week when you talk about Justice League.
Okay,
It's gonna fit perfectly.
I need to save it. Anyway, we are ending out such an amazing group of movies, of course, and I'm so sad that it's over because I enjoyed watching this in theaters so unbelievably much. But we are here to discuss The Return of the King, which, oh my God, did he return? You know what I'm saying?
Jesus, did he return?
But before we get into that, I might as well just say, if you want to follow us on any social medias, you always can at Twitter, at PressPlay. Oh no, my bad. I've done this so much and I'm still not good at it.
We don't have the handle that we want. We're sorry.
You can follow us on Twitter at Again Press and Instagram at Press Play Again, and we're gonna have some mighty great things to show you guys on there. So make sure you do it. And then if you also want to listen to us instead of watching us, even though I suggest watching us because we look cool as hell, but if you don't want to do that, you can listen to us on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and of course Apple Podcasts. And please leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and questions and comments and I don't know, anything. Just subscribe to us, like us, do it all on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere. In real life, that'd be great too.
Smeagol really wants you to leave 5-star review.
What was
Man,
that?
Every single person listening just turned this off.
Oh.
I had really high hopes for how that was gonna come out. And
Was that supposed to be Smeagol or something?
No,
I hope
definitely
not.
No.
I really hope
I
not.
was like, what was that supposed to be?
That was just a little guy I was working on. It was nothing.
Just
That wasn't
workshop it a
Smeagol.
little more. We'll have him come back. That'll be I don't know what that was.
Smeagol. No.
You're getting close, dude. Keep it coming. Throughout the rest of this episode, by the end of the episode, you're gonna have a spot on Smeagol impression. There we go.
I just talked the whole episode in my trying to do Smeagol.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's ears are bleeding after like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but this episode's gonna be up Tuesday, 10 a.m. Of course, watch it, listen to it. Obviously, you will be listening to it if you're listening to this.
If you're listening to it right now, you're listening to it. So.
We just worked the math out on that.
But we also have, of course, on Thursdays, we're continuing our countdown to the Snyder Cut, and we're gonna have the infamous, if
Yes.
you'll allow me,
There you go.
Omar,
There you
Justice
go.
League, which God Almighty. But we'll
Looking
have that
forward
for
to
you
that.
guys. And then Friday, we're gonna be back on top with the finale of Fridays with Wanda and Vision. Super looking forward to that too. But I don't
Man,
care
an
about that
epic
right
week,
now.
huh? Holy
It
shit.
is an
Epic
epic
fucking week.
I just
Jesus.
realized, yeah.
We're killing
But I don't care about that right now because all I want to do is talk about this movie because my God. So we might as well just get into it. And I'm going to say we're starting with our initial reactions. And I want to hear Matt's first because this was his first time.
Mine first?
Popped that little cherry.
Oh
sorry.
my God. I'm glad this is what we're equating it to. Oh my God. All right, guys, here's the thing. This is a long ass movie. This is a fucking. There's so much in this movie. This might be the longest movie I've ever seen. Right?
You're
I mean,
lying.
3.5 hours? What could be this long?
Well,
The
Snyder
10
Cut will
Commandments?
be.
Yeah, the Snyder
Oh,
Cut.
the 10 Commandments. Yeah, that's
We're
one
gonna
of them.
usurp it real quick. So here's what I want to say. This movie was fantastic. This series was fantastic. I gave these movies so much shit for so long. It was fucking funny. I regret nothing. I'm just gonna say. I love joking that all these movies were a bunch of people walking around, fucking singing songs, bullshit, and whatever. This, this movie was great. It's up there with the best. Like, just like this ending is just fucking phenomenal. Like, it is. It made me feel things. It wrapped up everybody's story so perfectly. And on top of that, the whole movie was still like a movie. Like this movie doesn't necessarily just feel like the ending the whole time, like some endings of trilogies and stuff do. Like it feels like the third chapter, and there is so much going on. And that's why, like, it's one of the few movies that's this long that I feel like really does justify being 3.5 hours long. How could it? Like, I don't know how it could have been shorter. It really couldn't have. We get a massive battle that is somehow bigger than the one that I like raved about last week, and it's just the middle of this movie. It's like the whole middle hour of this fucking film. Like it's great. It's so fucking great.
I know. When you said that the last episode, I was just like, just wait. You
Yeah,
have no
I
clue what
know.
you're about to say.
I could see it in y'all's eyes when I was like going on, like, man, is this the best battle ever? And y'all are just like, dude, you just gotta wait a second. But hold on, I wrote a couple other things down here that I really wanted to bring up. Because I'm stupid, I can't think without being provoked. Oh wow, I actually did a pretty good job of bringing all that up. But yeah, so I don't know, like I really did love it, and there's a couple things that maybe I have more questions on them. Maybe they're going to click a little bit more for me when I get to rewatch this movie, like so many people that have grown up with these movies. But yeah, I thought it was basically perfect. Like I don't know. It exceeded every expectation I had, and one of the biggest things that I feel like I can give to this movie is being over with it now. Like, what did we just spend? Like 20 hours watching this shit? Like, I'm so ready to rewatch them. I'm so ready to watch the Hobbit movies. I'm so ready to read about fucking the lore of every little weird creature and city and town that was in this thing. Like, I'm ready to know so much about it, and I get why people get so attached and drawn to like these characters in this world and everything. It hit me in one of those ways where I just always assume there's no way I'm gonna like these as much as everyone's telling me I'm going to, and I really did. And I'm sorry to everybody that told me to watch these for the last 5 years, and I looked at you in your eyes and I fucking laughed in your face. I'm sorry, but I regret nothing.
You're not forgiven. No,
I regret
I'm kidding.
nothing.
We're just happy you watched this, and that's like the best answer. So I'm glad you liked it.
I did. I really did.
I think I already know how Omar feels, but I'm gonna let everybody else know how Omar feels.
Okay. I'm not even gonna like fake like I didn't like this movie because I did that I think last episode. So
Too much the same
I'm
joke.
gonna just yeah. No, I mean honestly, it's exactly like what you said in terms of like not having something to complain with about a movie. I think this might be the only movie I've ever seen where I think it's just literally a 10 out of 10, like an act, like without exaggeration. Like there's a lot of movies I walk out of, I'm like, dude, that was a 10, dude, a 12 out of 10, highly recommend. But no, like this is a literal 10 out of 10, just pure perfection. The last time I saw it was 17 years ago, and the experience I had with it, it just completely blew my mind. And 17 years later, same exact experience, man. Literally just blew
Love
my
that.
mind, and everything looks so perfect with IMAX, dude. Like, holy crap! I think when we see the first movie, the IMAX looks great. When we see the second movie, it looks greater. And then when we
This
get to the
one,
third movie, it just looks fucking fantastic. It
it looked like a
literally,
modern movie, right? Like I
dude,
was.
it looked
IMAX is the way
insane, man.
these movies were meant to be seen.
Like, oh my god, yeah. And honestly, if you call yourself a Lord of the Rings fan and you haven't seen it in IMAX and
Then
you
get
missed the
the fuck out
opportunity,
of here. I'm just kidding.
then get the fuck out of here. I'm
Thank
not
you.
kidding, because I mean, what an experience, dude. It looks so fucking good. But yeah, no, if you like Matthew, if you've never seen these movies, they're a journey to say the least. I mean, you experience so much, and it's honestly, it's exactly like you took the words out of my mouth. 3.5 hours. I don't know if this movie could have been short. Like, I'm not even sure what they would have taken out to even make it 20 minutes less, you know? So yeah, a 10 out of 10 from me.
I dig it. I'm like so happy with how over the moon y'all both are with this movie. Because clearly I'm the same. I had this moment, I feel like, when I realized in this last movie, like the last movie we're watching in theaters after watching the whole trilogy, I don't know, it sparked this nostalgia in my head, and then I realized like this movie isn't even just about like watching it when you were younger and loving it and then growing up and still loving it. It's like these are just bomb ass movies and like one of the best storytelling movies I feel like I've ever watched and probably will ever watch, and it deserves every award it ever got. I don't know. I just
9 of them
you feel so connected
Oscars.
to the characters by the end of these movies, and you already feel so connected to them just in the first movie. So when you get to the point where it's the third movie and it's the end, like the end all be all, like everything's over, it's the most emotional, like happy, overwhelming feeling you can have. I don't know. I know there's issues with some of the end that people have. I don't really give a shit because I love every I love every aspect of this movie. And all it did watching it again is just remind me that that's how I feel about these movies. That they're just like perfect, and I will always love them, and I will always say that they are like one of the best trilogies, if not the best trilogy I've ever watched. So that's
Fucking
where
love it,
I
man.
stand, and that's where I will always stand.
Try
'Cause
to
I'm
change my
stubborn.
mind.
Epic.
Epic is the word. Like epic really like truly is the word to
That is
describe
the
this. It's
definition of these
Yeah.
words. I almost said the definition of these words is epic.
the definition
Cool.
of
I'm
these
glad
words.
I can talk.
Infamous.
I'm really having trouble talking today.
Aren't we all?
But anyway, my main question is, so going into this last movie, compared to the other two movies, with all these different plot lines that they have like throughout the entire movie, does it work as well, you think, in this third one as it did with the first two? Like if you're following all these people around and all these different groups of people, they do it through each movie and then still also end up doing it in the third one. So is
Yeah.
it too much, or what do y'all think on that?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I mean this isn't the first or last trilogy we're gonna see, right? We've seen multiple trilogies, and sure, a lot of them maybe have like in the MCU movies, trilogies usually take part of something like on a larger scale. So I'm gonna ignore the MCU for right now, just for argument's sake.
That's fair. I'll
In
allow
terms
it.
of like, okay, thank you, sir. In terms of like trilogies, other movies have tried to do this, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes it works, like barely works. Other times it's a shit show. I mean, I'm not gonna like name drop movies right now because I'm not
No,
trying
drop
to
them.
throw
Drop
shade or
them. Tell
whatever
us.
and
Come
try
on.
to no, I'm just trying to keep the focus here, okay?
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, some movies are just a shit
Tell
show.
me after.
With Lord of the Rings, 3.5 hours, there's no excuse. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been a shit show. It should have by
Right.
every means. It should have. It's a 3.5 hour movie, a shitload of characters, multiple storylines, multiple characters.
Mhm.
It's not like they were the same. Even the four hobbits. Even if we're looking at just the four hobbits, let's say the movie was just these four hobbits. They are not the same. They are not the same character. They don't have the same story. Nothing. I don't know how they did it. I really don't. The storylines just they flow perfectly. I cared just the same amount about every little plot. You know, whether it was action, whether it was just a conversation, it just it made sense. It made
I
perfect sense.
I completely agree. I feel like
Yeah,
especially because you get to focus on so many of the it's the end of all these different stories that we've been seeing. So with
exactly.
like Pippin and Mary, you're finally getting to the end of like their growth and their journey. And I feel like both of them went through so much in the last two movies that from the beginning, like if you remember them in the beginning of these movies compared to how they were at the end of this
Yeah.
movie, they are completely different people. And it's so much so to the point where they literally like split up like
Mhm.
purposefully at some point,
Right.
and you never would have seen that, and it was such an emotional scene and it makes me sad every time. But it's it's crazy, you see these two like hobbits that didn't really care about anything other than like eating, drinking, and like having fun, and then now they're willingly both wanting to go into battle. It's just
Mhm.
I love the
Perfect.
character growth in these
Yeah.
movies. It's
Right.
like so phenomenal.
Everyone's so brave. Everyone's so brave, and it just makes you feel brave.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know?
crazy how much they
Watching
make
it, you
you.
know.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much they make you like actually feel for these characters, and like you at the end of the movie you care about everyone. Like, there's not one character I was like, he was kind of lame. Like, I didn't really like his story. You know, like everyone got the perfect ending, in my opinion. Honestly, like every single character got what they deserved by the end of the movie. It's not like anyone was left out. It's not like you felt anyone was like any certain characters were shortchanged.
Right.
Somehow in this like epic 3.5 ending, you know, like of just like an epic journey, a conclusion that just like you expect it to honestly like shortchange someone or
Drop the ball
shortchange
somewhere,
like a
right? Come
certain
on.
right, but it
Yeah.
did like somehow like yeah, dude, speechless. I don't know. It's crazy.
I will
Wild.
say too, speaking of, because like we kind of got introduced to a new character in this movie who also
Yes.
sucks. And
Is that
that's
the
Boromir and
yeah.
Faramir's father. And Matt hated him. Like
Does
the
anybody not hate
second
him? Because fucking come
What's
tell
he
me
from?
why.
He
Like,
looks very familiar.
he
Like,
does
is
look
he from
familiar.
something?
He looks like this guy who's in Game of Thrones, but I don't know if
who,
it's actually him.
the Red Wedding bitch?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Yes.
who I was thinking of, but I know it's not him. But either way,
Can't
like,
think of his name.
but his character, even like introducing him in this movie was enough, and like it made you care about Boromir's brother, and you're like, why do I
Exactly.
care about him?
Exactly.
But I do, and that's what this movie like succeeds so much in,
Mhm.
is making you
Mhm.
care so much about everyone. And I found his story so compelling too, like the younger brother who
Yeah.
wants to impress his father, and his father loved his firstborn, and all the honor type shit that happens in these kind of movies. It's like really deep, and I love stuff like that.
Can somebody explain to me in my feeble mind what was going on there with their father and what his plan was with that? Because that just
When he
What
went
was trying to
over.
light
plan?
himself on fire?
Yeah, like what? Like so he
He went
sends his son
crazy.
out knowing his son's gonna die. He obviously wishes he had fucking Boromir instead of what's his brother's name? Escapes my mind.
Faramir.
Faramir. That's easy enough.
Faramir.
Faramir. I'll never
Like with
forget
an
it again.
F.
But yeah, so I mean, then he comes back, or then he's dead, or basically dead. They think he's dead, and he's all sad or whatever, and then he just throws him in a pile of fire, and he's gonna light both of them on fire. I missed something, or I don't know. I was kind of just like, is this man
Well,
fucking insane? What's going on?
I just assumed at that point he was driven to insanity, and he's probably beyond depressed, just thinking, okay, like shit, my line just ended. I don't have any more sons
That's
to
all he
like
kept yelling about.
right. And I guess at that time, pride and leadership and all that stupid shit really meant a lot to
Right.
people because you know I don't know I
Plus,
don't
Again, can't feel bad for this man
I
because
mean, no,
he
but that's the
treats
thing.
his son like shit and then sends him to
right
his death. So I'm just
yeah
kind
But
of
that's the
like,
thing. You see him have power, just like completely control his life, and he's one of those instances where you want to be king and you want to be in control of everything, so you let like that power control you. And he looked down on his son for some reason, even though him and his brother look exactly the same. So I was like, I mean, can't you just pretend it's
yeah, just
Boromir?
like,
But
hey,
whatever.
you got one of his sons
Um,
lived. Come on.
but
Be
yeah,
happy.
it's pretty much I and you take it, especially towards the end of all of that, which I guess we just jumped to that part, but like he wants to set his son on fire and himself. It's not even like he's trying to just kill his son. It's like I just
yeah
am trying to get rid of this feeling I have, even
This
maybe, or something
disrespect.
along the lines of that. Yeah.
yeah
Either way, he went crazy. And then even when people are telling him his son's still alive, it's like he's not registering that that's true. And then when he realizes his son's alive, as he's like burning to death, you can see it in his eyes, like he realizes like what he did. But then
I
it's too
love
late, and he
that
burns
part,
to death.
dude.
And dude, that scene where he's just
I
like
love
jumps
that
off
so
and
much.
God,
like
that
falls on fire. Oh, such a cool
And like how
shot.
the
that
camera zooms out and literally just like
Hmm.
oh
I
my
was gonna
god, I
say
love that.
that brings up a point of what all these movies did so well, and even this one I noticed it more than ever. But they cut to just massive sweeping, like
Yeah.
wide shots of just everything that puts everything in perspective. They do that always at the perfect time in this whole trilogy.
Mhm.
And I get that's got a lot to do with how big the budget was and that they just kind of had the freedom to do stuff like that. Not every movie can do that. But just for people like us watching them, I think that makes you like you feel so much more attached to the world, and it just adds all these cool moments like that. Every
Yeah.
time they're able to do that and just kind of show you again, like, look at how small everybody is in this massive fucking tower. Like, they're not just in this room in a set or
Right.
something. Like, it is like putting everything in perspective just always makes you like roped in more to it. And
Yeah.
every time, especially like we're talking about seeing it in IMAX and 4K, right? It's just like that's the shit that looks stunning. That's the shit that like sticks with you. God.
Oh, you know what I wanted to bring up too? So I guess this is mostly for you, Matt, but did you expect like most of this movie to be revolved around Smeagol / Gollum?
Was most of it revolved around?
I mean, a large part of it, I guess, and the
Ye-
whole opening part is
No.
like
I
his
completely forgot about the
backstory.
opening.
Definitely,
I'm being
definitely
honest
did
with
not
you.
expect that. I was like, this is an interesting way to move it or open the movie. Sorry. And also a great way that the opening of this movie was fucking dark and cool and everything under the sun.
Disgusting, kind
Um,
of.
yeah, disgusting. I like to, but yeah, I really do like how much it focused on him because this being a story about the ring and
Yeah.
what it can do to somebody. I think that's a very important to like. There's this other character in this movie, Gollum,
Hmm.
Smeagol, that has been corrupted by the ring, and I think showing him with Frodo, like showing what he could become and what it does to somebody that I guess isn't the strong-willed soul that Frodo is super important and helps put it into perspective. And I don't know when we're going to talk about, like, I have a kind of, it's my biggest problem with this movie, I guess, and maybe the whole trilogy, I guess, is that Frodo to me, I don't know. I guess I want to ask you guys, as people that have watched these movies so much, like, how do y'all feel about Frodo? How, like, leaving the, like, as this movie ends, what is your impression of him? What is your, like, I don't know. What do you feel that he is this character that you love? Do you feel that he is this, like, are you annoyed by the kind of like bitchy moments that he has? I get why, but
So
I
I feel
struggle with
like
this. This is the thing I struggled with the most in the movie.
that's the thing. Omar, I think, was talking about it before we started, but he was saying how people have issues a lot with some of the choices they made with Frodo and Sam, honestly,
So
too.
yeah, it was more like I said. I mean, it's from what I know, I've never read any of it, but they say that the what happens in the movie is pretty much what happens in the novel, but in the movie they don't emphasize it as much, or they don't emphasize certain things that really make like the relationship between Frodo and Sam what it's supposed to be or whatever, or even how everything kind of wraps up. To us, we've never read it. We don't really care. So to us, like we got what we got and we loved it. I don't know. Like I'm gonna answer your question with a question. I don't know if Frodo's supposed to be this character that we love, or I think we maybe are supposed to see everything through Frodo's eyes, and we see the characters around him, and I think that's who we're supposed to like grow attached to. I don't know if it's supposed to be Frodo really. I always thought like, okay, I'm seeing everything from his perspective. I don't need to feel attached to Frodo. I don't need to feel great about him. I don't even feel like bad about him. Because I mean, yeah, if you look at it that way, he's a whiny bitch, dude. I mean, honestly, like he's not like if I had to pick like three of my favorite characters, he's not the third. I'll say that.
Yeah, and I
So
guess I agree in that sense, because yeah, I wouldn't, if you asked me who my favorite characters were in this movie, I wouldn't say Frodo probably in the first top 5 or something. But
right.
I do think this movie does something cool where it centers like the main character, or you assume the main character. I feel like it could be multiple people, but most of the story
Definitely
is
good.
centered around Frodo. So they do this cool thing of like having a character who you like them because they're likable, but their whole purpose is really just a message to everyone. Like, you, as people, as humans, as whatever race you are supposed to be strong-willed to fight evil. Like, you have to overcome it, and you have to be strong enough to do so, to do whatever you need to do for yourself. And he becomes that person. Like, he's that message. Like, everybody looks up to Frodo and likes Frodo and sees this goodness in him because he has to do such a hard, terrible task. But even if, like, everything's not perfect and he can be a bitch and it can be hard, it's like, yeah, but that's how life is. Like, that's how everything is. Everything can be hard and you can be a bitch sometimes, and everything isn't easy. And so I always just find it more relatable, honestly, when Frodo acts like that. Cause it's like, he can't just be like all good, perfect. Like, Aragorn is that
Yeah.
person in this movie. Aragorn is the person that never backs down, never fails. You always trust everything he does. Frodo's more of the
He's
human
Jesus.
side. Like, he's Frodo's trying to be whatever he can do to save everyone, but he's also carrying this giant burden. And that's
Right.
what I just find really cool about these movies, and really interesting that I didn't know that this was a thing, that people didn't like Frodo, or that they thought like the end was dumb. And I can say I understand why
Hmm.
people feel that way, cuz yeah, when it gets to that point where, I guess we'll just jump to that scene since we're talking about it, but like at the end when like all of a sudden he just doesn't throw the ring in, you're like, "What? Like, how? I don't understand."
Frodo, my
It's a
dude.
it's a weird choice, but I don't
But
know. I just don't hate it.
no,
Well, I
and
think the same thing happens in the book, though.
it does.
That's
So
what I'm
Right.
here's
saying. I think they wanted more of Frodo in the movie. They wanted more of that, like I
I
said, the relationship.
as
Yeah.
somebody
Okay.
that this is my first time in all this. I feel like on paper, Frodo to me is actually the most like interesting character. Like he in the first movie, he was probably my favorite character. Like Aragorn was the coolest, but like Frodo was like the most compelling. As the
Mhm.
movies went on, you see more of this darkness in Frodo that it makes sense. We understand he's got the ring on him, right? Like this, we know that it is calling out to you and is tempting you to do things, and it is turning him dark. And we know to some extent. I mean, again, this is something that I need to watch these movies more to I think get the whole grasp on it. But we know to some extent that Frodo is, I'm not going to say like the chosen one, but he's somebody that's just got so much good in his soul that he's supposed to be one of the only people that could do this. I think I was even, because I'm trying to understand this after, so I'm reading interviews with Tolkien and stuff where he's like, he's the only person that could have done it. So to me, I don't think, and again, I could have missed something, but I don't think the movie does a good enough job of like really making you understand what he's going through. Like in the second and third movies, and I fucking love these movies. He is so, like most of the scenes you have with him, most of the time you spend with Frodo is him. Like he is kind of being an asshole. He's being a bitch to Sam, and I fucking love Sam. And Sam's such a nice guy, right? And that's what you're seeing. Their
Right.
relationship that you're seeing is mostly that, and you get it every time it's happening. You see the ring around his neck. You understand that is causing it. But I never realized that this was a thing that people had against it, but this was my initial reaction leaving. So I kind of get that, especially for people that maybe read the books. Because my guess, because it's impossible to make a perfect book adaptation where you get everything. You know, it's so hard. A book has so many
Except for
more.
Twilight, but yeah.
Except for Twilight. I mean, just if you want to say anything different, I want you to just shut up right now and leave.
Get the hell out.
Shut up and leave. I'm just, I don't know. We do want your support, but but no, it's one of those things where you can, I think that's where I could see that must have been stuff that got cut out or just harder to show on screen. Because Frodo's like, if he is this like good soul that is the only person that can do it, I feel like that is such an interesting character. That is somebody that like at the end of the movie, you should be fucking rooting for this guy.
Right.
And on paper, I think you still are, because I get it. Like I get why he gets up there and he turns and he puts the ring on. Like it is impossible. Like that's what you're supposed to believe, right? That the ring just has that much darkness in it, that somebody being with it that long, even somebody as good as Frodo, is going to get up there to throw it in and have withdrawals and have like say, I'm not going to do it. And that's the darkness in all of it. But I feel like the movie just does not show that enough to where, to me, so much of the time we spend with Frodo is seeing that dark side of him. You kind of forget how fucking pure and happy and like this hero that he was in the first movie. And I don't even know how you would have. I don't know how you would have done that differently. I don't know if you would have like just put more like scenes of showing like the kind of like heroic part of him struggling with it. Maybe showing more symbolic stuff of him in his head dealing with this. Maybe like more specific temptations that the ring was like trying to call out to him to do, and him turning them down, and like us seeing him have these little victories against it. Because really, you just kind of get the vibe that this ring is just eroding him constantly and turning him into this more dark thing, that when he gets up there, he's at his breaking point.
Right. And I think the thing is, Samwise is such a great character and such an amazing friend, and Sean Astin plays him so perfectly that I think it gets to the point where you're like, Sam feels like the hero,
and he feels like the nice guy, and he feels like the guy that's getting ragged on.
But that's what I love
constantly.
so much about their relationship. It's like it kind of also is just like, this is friendship. This is pure friendship.
But see,
like he is lifting Frodo up to be where he needs to be, because no one can do stuff alone in life. Like you can't carry a burden alone. Like,
right.
You need people to help you. And I get what you're saying. I'm saying, like, I think that Sean Astin did so well that it kind of took it away from Frodo.
Like they didn't expect that Sean Astin would be this likable to the point where his reactions to everything, that like anytime Frodo tells him to like dude, get the fuck out of here, whatever. Like the hate, the pain in Sam's eyes,
in his face, I know,
are just like how, like, no, don't tell Sam to leave. What the fuck's wrong with you, bro? And so I think it's just that classic thing of like, that Frodo's kind of being misled by the ring and by Gollum and stuff, and so you're just drawn more to side with like, okay, Sam's right, like he's telling you not to trust Gollum and all this stuff. And so since we see so much of that side of Frodo, like always kind of wrongly doing that, and then when you love Sam, I think it's just this weird give and take. For me, only watching these movies once, again, I expect this might change when I rewatch them, but that was just something where getting to the end of it and seeing all this, and finally the ring gets thrown in there and they're saved. It just feels like this weird wrap on this where it's like, no, fuck, like Sam did so much. Sam did so much.
No, but
and
see,
Frodo,
and
I don't think it does a good enough job of just saying like Frodo was this way because of the ring. Like
See,
I know that he is. I know on paper that's why it is, but that was just my initial kind of leaving it is how I
right,
felt
and
about it.
I get that completely. I just disagree slightly because of the way the entire movie ends. Like with Sam
That definitely
having
helps
his
it.
family and given the book and pretty much being like, this is like what he, out of everyone in the movie, this is the life he deserves the most. So it's like a cool way of putting the end in such a beloved character that everybody fell in love with and has been a part of. And he almost feels like the pure good in this movie. And so him having that ending is just like what
Oh, it
the
definitely is.
cherry on top, as
He's
they
yeah,
say.
and
I'm
Sam's the
actually
perfect ending.
right in the middle of you guys, like we're in between. Because I
Dang, like a
think
sandwich.
like a sandwich. Yeah, well, the reason being is because I think yes, like there was problems with Frodo's character, and then Sam was too good. It almost makes you think, okay, should he just have carried the ring? Like, could he have just, like, would the ring not have had as much of an effect on
Like,
him
is
or
he
whatever?
just on the same? Yeah, is he like on the same place as
Right,
Frodo, or even higher, maybe in terms
right.
of?
Because it made me wonder that the entire time. But I think why it works so well is not just because of Sam, but also throwing Smeagol in the mix and having him like lay out traps consistently or whatever for Sam and Frodo to kind of like, I think that helped a lot, and that takes away from
It
okay, well,
did.
shit, yeah, yeah. So I think the whole Sam thing helped. I think like having Smeagol in the mix helped also, and then yeah, the thing with Frodo, honestly, I mean, it could go both ways. I just think like if you've seen it from his perspective, right? You assume okay, he's got this ring. He's seen other people turn just like that as soon as they see the ring. I mean, he could be also very paranoid, even Sam or any like any of the other hobbits. So I'm thinking like, okay, he's probably like this is his first time probably leaving the Shire, and well, it is right. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember, yeah, because I
I
know
think
it's
so.
Sam's for sure. Yeah, so it was him and Sam, and it's like, dude, he's out and about. They're kids. He's got this whole fucking responsibility on him. So I mean, if I was him too, I'd probably like, dude, I'd have that ring like around my dick if I could, man. I'd fucking
Oh
secure
my
that bitch.
god.
I mean, dude, I would make sure no
Whatever
one
I
like
need
I'd
to
be really
do.
paranoid. I mean, that's a huge
Well, and that's what the
responsibility.
ring, it's not even just the responsibility. It's literally the evil and the feelings that come from the ring turn
Right.
you into what Smeagol slash Gollum are. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can turn you that to that if you don't have enough will inside of you to want to do good. And
Yeah.
so that's, I think, the whole reason they even have Smeagol in this damn
And
movie is
God,
like to
the whole
prove it.
Smeagol transformation too, them showing it,
Oh,
like
it's
when
rough.
he's like slow. Oh my God, I
Oh my
love that
god.
though. Like the whole the slow transformation, just showing him like eating just like fucking raw fish and just like how he looks, literally like, oh man,
The
that's
raw
crazy,
fish
dude.
was the
Yeah,
bridge too far,
yeah,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I loved it though.
I think
I
yeah.
think
I think that y'all telling me this though is actually good. Because the whole reason why I think I even nitpick about this is because, like I said at the top, like from the first movie, Frodo felt to me like he was my favorite character, and knowing what his journey was and his place in the story, like him basically being the only person that could do this, that makes me love him even more. And so I think that's why I'm just like a little bit let down by how they
Mm,
show his journey through that. And I just, again, I feel like they just don't hammer it in enough. They don't give you enough time with the good
yeah.
part of him. And that's, but I think the more I read about this, I think if I ever got to sit down and read the books, and I think just rewatching these movies, honestly, maybe even watching the extended cuts of them, because like the whole reason that sparked this was talking about like, maybe that could have been something that got cut. Maybe there were things that
Mm,
maybe they had a little bit more time with him. I don't know. I'd have to watch them. But I think all of that is, I don't think this is something that I'm going to really feel is like a weak part of the story by any means.
yeah.
I think if, when I watch these again and when I kind of just learn a little bit more about it, it might kind of,
mhm.
like my troubles
Your
with
eyes will
this
be
might be,
opened.
yeah, my eyes might be opened a little bit because
I
just
can
the whole thing with just Gollum, like the comparisons to Gollum, I think Gollum exists so much in the story to show you what how strong Frodo really is. And I think these movies are so long and there's so much going on in them. I think it's maybe hard to like just have that in context the whole time. So I think there's gonna be a lot for me to get out of watching these again.
No,
so if
you
y'all want to do
definitely
3 more
need to.
podcasts about him, I'm 100% down.
Ready, baby?
I'm game. I do want to say because we have to talk about Aragon. I mean, this movie's.
I know
about him.
his name's been said like
So,
twice.
I feel like his journey and what he goes through, it's just more of the same, but in the best possible way, because it's more of him leading and being an amazing leader. And I absolutely adore that. And I love that they still get to a point where they have the 3 of them team up with Gimli and
Yes.
Legolas too.
I wanted
and they
to
go do the whole like ghost area. I love that part.
I wanted to stand up and cheer the second that they were like, you know us well enough by now, like we're coming with you, or whatever the better line was than that. But I was just like, yes, thank it. And that's what I mean about this movie not just feeling like a 3.5 hour finale. Like it is, but it's also just a really like full, complete movie where there's stuff going on like that.
The story is like it's instead of it being a story just full of like ending parts of a story that's already been being told, it's just continuing different aspects of the story somehow.
And I love
it's
that.
beautiful.
I love that.
I feel like whenever we get to the point where he's given the sword, like he literally handed the sword, being like, "You are king. Here you go.
So good.
Do what you will with this thing." And then he does the thing he needs to do, and he goes into the forest that no one can come out of, or whatever. Ghosts like enter their bodies. I don't know, but you go
Some
in.
weird shit.
And all the stuff, even like the little quips that you still get from Gimli, I'm like, how do they time this perfectly to where it's not cheesy and too much, but it's just still so charming? This movie. But yeah, when they go into that, and did you expect them to have a ghost army? I will ask that question.
Here's what I'll say. Definitely didn't, because I feel like that'd be a weird thing for me blindly going into these movies to expect. But I will say, once the ghost army showed up, I had memories of my childhood that, again, I never saw these movies. I probably just saw commercials or the video games maybe even. But seeing the Green Army fighting, that was like a snapshot in my brain of like, holy shit, I remember seeing something about this. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect a ghost army to answer your question, but like seeing the Green Army fighting, I had some weird remembrance of seeing that visually before. And I thought it was super cool. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, I
actually completely forgot about them.
Did you?
the entire army, yeah.
So what were you thinking when they were walking in? Like, did you just not expect?
No. I mean, as soon as I saw them and like they were having the conversations, like, oh, I remember this part. But no, prior, like it was just completely out of my mind. Yeah.
I will say, related to this, and I'm fully prepared to get torn to pieces right now. Again, guys, remember when I say this, this movie to me is a 10 out of 10, and I love it. I love it. It might be my favorite of these. I don't know. I wish that Aragorn's entrance into the battle was just a little bit cooler. Just a little bit.
And no, I thought it was cool as hell.
Here's the thing. I think it's cool as hell when he's charging with the ghost army. That is cool. But I think, and this is such a small thing, but I think he jumps over the ship wall the first time you see him. The first time you see him, he jumps over so fast and so weird because it's almost a little CGI'd. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it looks kind of like strange. It's just not as... Here's the problem. Because here's my golden threshold for it, is Gandalf's fucking entrance in the last movie. And I think the way Gandalf appears with that army is just the best. And I think him running with the ghost army was almost just as cool. So I think if you just had a cooler, just like a wide shot of him, something like a little bit different, I think I would have been more on.
If you compare the two, if you compare the two, yeah, sure, I 100% see what you're saying. But yeah, I didn't even like. I've never compared the two. I didn't even see it that way.
Right.
Yeah, no, dude, I love when he does that little fucking hop over the ledge of the boat, whatever.
Well, so yeah, when the dumbass orcs are like, "Oh, late again as usual," and,
and then they just kick all kinds of ass, and
all 3 of them jump off, and you're just like, "Hell yes!" And then the entrance with the ghosts, it's just the ghosts. It's such a weird thing to say, but when you see that part, it is so hype because you're just like, that is their king that's like coming in and saving the fucking day, because like this is the thing that won it for them. And all the stuff when you get to see Gandalf like fighting for real, I love those parts. Like when you see him using his staff,
he is
and
so
everything.
fucking on his horse, man. There's so few things that are as cool as this old man just fucking kicking ass on his horse, even when he's running without his horse. Just give me more of it.
I feel like he's one of the best created characters that isn't a main, like a
Like the
main character
like the
ever
protagonist.
in a movie. Yeah, like he's
He's
always
iconic. I
like
mean, he's one of the
a
most
side
iconic.
part of all of their journeys. Like he's not the like he isn't the one choosing to go on the journey, but he's the one helping them along, and I love that. And I think they do him so well.
Well,
And Ian
he's
McKellen's just amazing.
and to make the we got to throw a Star Wars comparison in here at some point. I mean, he is the Yoda of this story, but like in the original trilogy, Yoda is not fighting. He's much more of like a mentor role. And so in this, you've got a mentor that is also kicking ass and looking this cool while he's doing it. Like Gandalf's amazing. He's awesome.
That reminds me, that scene that he has when he's talking to Pippin, before they think they're about to die, when he is having like, that
Yeah,
speech
dude, I
with
love
him,
that scene.
it gets me
Oh.
every time. And he's sitting there just like explaining to Pippin like this isn't the end, and he's explaining everything that could come after, and just how it is to be just completely full of hope. And it is one of the most powerful scenes of all of the movies, I think
Yeah.
personally, because it's
Yeah, I love
just
that scene. It's so good.
the faces they make. I'm just the acting, great job, actors.
Good job, actors. You really
Who'da
sold
thought,
this one. Yeah, that scene's incredible. That whole line from Gandalf, that whole scene was like, I remember thinking in the theater, I was like, this is something that I feel like this must be one of those scenes people go back and watch all the time when you're feeling low or you're in a dark place or maybe you're even getting older in life or something. I feel like that. I love scenes like that are just very powerful statements on death and looking at it with a more like, hopeful, optimistic way. And it's great. It was great.
I feel like there's just so much that I like to touch on too. With his name is escaping me right now, but it's the king of
Rohan
from the last movie.
The only guy that really died in this movie.
Yeah, isn't that crazy that like none of the main characters really
so
died?
I had a list of tiny, like, again, I love this movie, but there are just a couple things that irked me a little bit, and so that was one of the other things that was on me. I'm curious how y'all think about it. I don't think this movie's so good. It's not like it needs death. It doesn't need characters to die to be as amazing as it is.
That's the one problem I had with this movie.
It's just they were this long, right? Like this many hours of screen time. Obviously, we got more deaths, earlier on in it. But for this to be the finale, and I just feel like for things to be this huge, and the only person that dies is that king man that was evil last time, and
I feel awful not remembering his name right now. I gotta look it up.
Yeah, look it up. We gotta give that man his respect.
Steven, I think.
It was Steven. Bailey, stop looking it up. His name was Steven. But that's the thing. It's unrealistic, but at the same time, these movies aren't realistic. So that's the wrong word. Theoden.
I knew it was something in there.
Pour one out. But yeah, I went into this thinking somebody else was gonna die. I didn't know who it was gonna be. But I just thought that another character would go at some point, at least one more, maybe even two or something.
His death was great though, and
it was really
powerful.
And we didn't even talk about it's not his daughter, right? His niece.
It's his niece.
His niece, and everything with her being the person that got Pippin.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Oh wait,
it's a toss up.
No, she was with Mary.
She's with Mary.
Jesus
Sorry,
Christ,
my bad.
I get it wrong.
God. I couldn't remember because at one point they're both on the battlefield. And I'm like picturing both of them.
One of them's underneath like a dead horse or something.
Yeah, Pippin was the one with Gandalf the whole time.
Yeah, so her being the reason, like the two of them being these characters that nobody wanted to bring into battle, and just her kind of picking them up and bringing them there. I was like, this is hype as shit. And the two of them, I love the moment when they get there and they look at everything, and you can see for the first time, because they're always so hopeful and full of courage and all this. The rest of the time you see them training. And for them to get there and they both have that like struck look of fear all of a sudden, and she kind of just holds him and she's like, be brave or something like that. And then from that point on, they are going and fucking shit up. And I loved what they did with both of them. These, like I said, these movies are so long. It's so easy to forget the little arcs like that with the characters, and all of it's so good. All of it is so interesting. None of it's boring. None of it feels rushed or anything except for fucking Frodo.
I do want to say one thing in terms of like not having any like the main characters die. Obviously I think that's something that's more common nowadays with movies, whereas back then it was always like the usual thing was a happily ever after, I think,
for sure.
So that's why like I wasn't surprised that it happened. Obviously I remember that no one from the main cast really died, and I think the darkest thing they did, which is probably, I'm not gonna say my favorite thing about this movie because it's such a small thing, but it's such an important thing. Sam, he's a brave guy. He's like he's got like a huge heart. Yeah, and everything. And he's just like, he's probably my favorite character, honestly. But
He might be mine too.
at some point when he's got like I forgot what they call them, the snacks or whatever. It was like bread.
The bread, the
Oh,
elf
the
Is that
bread,
what the
elven
hell was it?
bread.
elven
The
bread.
Alvin bread,
Elven.
yeah. Yeah, the Alvin bread. And he's like, I'm gonna have to rationalize this or whatever. And Frodo's like, for what? And he's like, for the way home. Okay. I love that part. But then you fast forward like an hour and a half or whatever towards the end of the movie, um, where they make it to the end and pretty much I forgot
I think
how
it's
the
water
conversation
that
went.
time. They're talking about the water running out.
Yeah,
Was it
like they're
what?
drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
And
drinking
then
water
and
and he
then
ran out.
was it Sam or was it Frodo? I want to say it was Sam that says, like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
It
it.
was
Like
Sam.
the
Frodo asked.
yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, because doesn't Frodo say something about just like, well, what are we gonna do for the journey home? And then that's what you're
Yeah, and
talking
he's like
about,
the
right?
journey. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I
But
love
I
that. I
think.
think that's the darkest approach they take
Oh
it
to it.
yeah,
is. It really is.
And yeah,
I
I don't
I
know.
think
I just think
agree.
it stood up.
I agree with what you're saying, Omar, because I feel like it's the time they show that it finally broke him. Like
Right,
has
right.
been breaking everyone, and it's
Like
finally now just completely broken everyone,
I think
kind of
that's the
thing.
closest they came to having one of the main guys like die in a sense.
Yeah.
Like his spirit was crushed, like his soul was crushed at that
Hmm.
point for him to say that, especially in front of Frodo, because it's one thing for him to think that on the inside, obviously he's the one he physically literally lifted Frodo up the fucking mountain. So he's not only doing
God,
that
so cool.
physically, but he's also, he was doing that mentally. He was like
Yeah.
Frodo's right hand. And for him at that moment to say that out loud in front of Frodo to Frodo, I think it just really emphasizes, yeah, like how much I mean it broke him. And I
Yeah.
think, like I said, I think that's why I like it so much because since they didn't take the route of having one of the main guys die, which I usually like just because it keeps you on your toes and also really makes it a lot more emotional. And it makes that like that because this is the conclusion of just an epic journey. It makes it that much like it makes it mean something, right? It makes it very meaningful that okay, they died for this. they
Yeah.
they died for what they were fighting for. So
Hmm.
I think it just yeah, I really like this route that they took.
I feel like that is definitely like you hit it on the nail on the head, as they say.
Wow.
Yeah, there
Omar,
I
put your
am.
head
I'm
right
50
here.
year olds again. Um,
Boom.
I swear, like, there's so much dark stuff that happens in this movie, but yeah, they don't have anyone die. But I think that's kind of an accomplishment in itself.
It
Because if
definitely
this movie
is.
can be so dark and it can be revolved around dark and light as much as it is, I think they do that so well in this movie too. Like the end scene, it's not the end scene, but like, so the last battle where pretty much they're at Mordor, they're at the gates of Mordor, and they have such a small army left and they're all like really white, and the orcs around them that they're like circling around them
Mm-hmm.
are all darker, so you just have this like small circle of light, but then they're like like covered in being smothered in darkness pretty much. And then you see, like, clearly they're not going to win if he doesn't destroy the ring. Clearly they were all going to die. But then you get that
Yeah.
big moment again with Aragon where he's just like, we're doing this, and he yells like for Frodo and just like
Goosebumps,
charges.
man.
And it's
Yeah.
seeing that and seeing them fight that one last time. I don't know why. It's just so powerful to me, even though it's not the big epic battle. It's just that
Right.
part is so important because it's like their last ditch effort. Like they have to do this to hope to God that Frodo like succeeds and destroys this ring. And he finally does, and it's great. And I don't know. I love the imagery with that and the light and the
Yeah.
dark. They play with that so much in this movie, and I think it's great.
It's
I
brilliant.
say that so
Yeah.
much in this podcast. It's because I
No, I
love
mean
this
it worked.
movie.
It worked really well, and I think this honestly kind of leads us to the main question, which was your question if you want to bring it up.
Oh yeah.
Um,
So my main question is, with this end, like how this movie ends, does this end up making it the best ending of a trilogy? And movies like this, like if you think of all the trilogies of movies, has anything ever ended in such a perfect way to y'all? Because like I honestly can say I think with all the trilogies and movies I've watched, and I love so many of them, this is the one I feel like I just am so unbelievably happy and pleased with every aspect of how this movie ended. And like the journey, that it's such a grand ending too, and the journey
mhm.
it brought you to and got you here. I felt so connected and attached. And so I guess it's after all these years of watching it, I finally am to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I don't care if people say I'm wrong. This is the best ending of a trilogy to me, in my opinion. So there you go.
You
That's
want
where
to
I'm
go
at.
first, Matthew? I'm very curious to see
Yeah.
what you've got to say.
Um, So I think it might be the best well done a trilogy's ever ended. Because I think back to trilogies that I'm trying to think of trilogies that I connect to as much or more. And there's stuff. There's Star Wars, and you think Return of the Jedi, and we all love Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is a great movie, and it's a great ending to that. But Star Wars is different than this. It's the characters in Star Wars are just as likable. The characters are just as meaningful, and maybe even more so in certain ways. I don't think they need the storytelling that these movies give. I don't know. I would have loved it. It's a weird thing to think about if Star Wars would have had something as epic as this. But that being said, the way this is made, it's undeniable that this is a more grand, sweeping, and like just fucking hitting every mole at the end, right? Like this is every single thing that you could think of in terms of wrapping up things in the story are wrapped up, and they're wrapped up so well. It's hard to say, like, is this my favorite? And even that's hard because, again, I just got introduced to this series, so it's hard to stack it up against things that I love so much. The other things I think about is stuff like The Dark Knight, too. Like, Rises gets a ton of shit, and that's another trilogy that I think is, another movie that I think ends that trilogy perfectly. But this being as long as it is, and Lord of the Rings being what it is, it's almost undeniably bigger than those. And for that reason, I think you have a strong argument that this is the best, and I'd probably agree, just in terms of like how well made this is. Like, yeah, I'm kind of still speechless that this movie is as good as it is and as satisfying as it is. God, it's
good. You should be.
That's a really
Should
good
be.
answer, man.
Yeah.
That's a really good answer.
I know. Good job.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest.
Really. What do you
Well,
think?
what do you think?
Be like, fuck no.
Honestly, it's along the line of what you said. You can't argue in terms of trilogies. This is the best trilogy ever made. From start to finish, that's not up for argument. Is it my favorite though? There are multiple movies I enjoy and like more than the first two.
Yeah.
As for Return of the King and just overall how the trilogy was, I just think it's like you can't really compare it,
Well, and
right?
yeah,
I
I
mean,
guess that's
if
hard to do in
yeah,
general.
yeah, it's like like what the hell would you compare? Like,
There's
I
nothing.
can't even if you want to go like on a larger scale and compare it to, let's say, not a trilogy. Let's even say the Harry Potter movies, for example.
That's
The
where
Harry
my
Potter
mind
movies,
goes.
like I connect to a lot more than Lord of the Rings. I just do because I've played all the video games, I've read all the books, I've watched the movies multiple times. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna say Harry Potter is nowhere near as epic as Lord of the Rings. Not the first movie, not the second movie, not the third.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
it's hard
different.
to compare that level, right? It's hard to compare that scale. What we see in the first movie, in the second, in Return of the Kings, it's not just like an epic conclusion. It was an
Mhm.
epic first movie, it was an epic second movie, and then just the most epic thing, and if you really want to hit it close to home and you want to mention The Hobbit, I
Fuck
mean,
yeah.
that's a great example there. That's a trilogy there where it's set in the same universe, but in terms of epicness, I mean, yeah, there's the battles, there's the plots, the likable characters, but what the original Lord of the Rings trilogy did, you can't repeat that.
Hard to top, right?
You can't repeat that even in the same universe. I
Yeah.
just it's
Man, I'll
crazy,
tell you
man.
what, I'm loving these freaking answers because that's like what I wanted to hear y'all say. I don't even care if it's not your favorites. I wanted to hear y'all say that out loud, and
Credit
it's
where it's due,
beautiful. I freaking cried my eyes out at the end of this movie when we watched it. Like from the point where, from the point where he gets crowned, he becomes king, and then he kneels to the four hobbits,
When he
sobbed.
tells them you bow to no
You
one,
bow to no one, sobbed my
love
eyes
that.
out. Cried
Love
from
that.
that point on because then you get
Yeah.
them all reuniting and then Frodo leaving. And I'm just like, this movie brings up so much emotions from me. So many. I'm done. I can't do this anymore because I'm tired and I need to take a nap after I cry. So,
Um okay, I basically hit on everything that I really wanted to talk about, and especially questions I had. I have one big question still, and I have, I guess, one little smaller question. So I'll get the smaller one
okay.
out the way first.
We got to be quick because we're running long, guys.
Oh my god, we are. It's a 3.5-hour movie. Cut us some slack, people. Okay. What's his name? The Count Dooku guy. Saruman?
Yes.
What happened to him? Did I miss something?
He pretty much like he lost in the last movie. So in Two Towers, he pretty much loses, and
Did he die though?
I don't think he died. I think he
Um,
goes into exile.
I
I
think
thought
he
that's what
was
he did.
killed in
Oh, he was.
in Return of the King in the extended cut. From what I was reading,
Oh,
I think
Oh,
he is in the extended cut, and I
okay.
think literally that's how the movie starts. Like he stabbed or something along those
Okay.
oh,
lines. I haven't seen
interesting.
it.
Okay, I need to
Yeah,
go
Well,
watch
yeah.
that because to me that was a weird thing of just this character that was there, and
Yeah, I'm
I
not sure
knew that.
why they'd even take that out though,
Yeah,
or like
because
not
I
have
know
it
that
in the.
I knew that
they
like
say
he
he
was a bigger part of the last one, and that when everything got resolved in Two
Yeah.
Towers, that it made sense that he'd lost, but to not see that actually be resolved and
Right.
him
Well,
die
they
or
say
something.
something in this
Yeah,
movie.
that's the thing.
I
I
just
feel like I
can't
probably
remember if I can't remember if he was exiled or killed when they say it. But I thought for some reason when he said it, it sounded like it was more like an exile type thing.
yeah
Mhm.
But either way,
yeah
he
okay.
loses. So
I need to
fuck
go back
him.
and watch that. Okay, and then second, this ties more back to the end, and this is kind of a bigger question.
Mhm.
And I think I understand it, but again, so much happening, whatnot. So the end, Frodo leaving. That is because of his like just how close contact he was with the ring this whole time, what it did to him, and just him not being able to find any peace in the Shire after all that.
It's
Is
a
that the
choice.
reason?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's he goes on. I don't even know if anybody could go on a journey like that and do the things he did and experience the things he did without coming back to a normal life and it just not ever being the same ever again. Like Bilbo practically did that same thing and didn't even do what Frodo did. So
Right.
I don't know. I feel like that's more of the symbolism of him just being like, my time here is just over. There's nothing for me anymore. I've done everything I needed to, and it's time to pass on this story to someone else. And that's when you get the whole Samwise ending and stuff, which is awesome. But yeah, I think the end of that is I remember when I used to watch it, I would always be confused by that too, because I was just like, does this mean he's dying? Because I thought that's like what that ship kind of meant.
It
Like
seems like it was like
it's
this
like you're going
allegory
on
for
to a different
death. Yeah.
afterlife kind of thing.
But also the elf people, I forget their names, but they were going there too. And what's his face?
But they were saying their time is done. So it was like they are taking this ship. I can't remember. I haven't looked into the lore of that in a long time because I remember looking that up a long time ago. So I probably should have done that because I knew you were gonna ask that question. I knew you were gonna wonder
You
about
know
that.
me so well.
But I can just tell you off air because I'm gonna have to look into it more. But I feel like the understanding I have for that is just his time is done. He's moving on to his next journey in life, which isn't a part of this life
And but it's
anymore.
because of the ring, because I imagine it's
Yeah,
got to
it's
be
because of what he went through.
because Bilbo is going there too, and
Yeah.
and it almost seemed like to me, it helped, like that stuff helped a little bit with what I was talking about earlier with like not feeling totally complete with Frodo, but like is this weird thing of, and I might be looking too much into it, but when him and Bilbo were like sitting in the back of the thing on the way there, and Bilbo's even like saying like, man, like what I would have done to just have one, like to hold it one more time or something, and Frodo just kind of like puts his head on his head and just kind of, you get this vibe that like the ring really truly did corrupt Frodo, even on like a way where he's not totally back from it. Because doesn't he say something about he's got to leave because the Shire's not safe from him? I don't know if I'm making up words now.
I don't remember that
No,
part.
no,
But I
no.
was
He said something
crying, so
about, yeah. He was saying that they saved the Shire, but the Shire is not saved for him, not from
Oh,
him, for him.
for him.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so
So
that's
not like
pretty
he was
much.
gonna
I
fuck the
fe-
Shire up or anything.
Not
but
like he was like gonna all of a sudden be the
Get
evil
me out of here
person
before I
and
just
fucking
destroy.
light the shrooms.
he becomes a big eye.
I'm the new
Oh my
Sauron.
god. That's
But
sick.
yeah, so and
yeah.
I'll just say to end all that, I loved the actual like that whole last 3 or 4 minute scene. Like I thought that stuff was like some of the most interesting in the whole movie. Wasn't really even expecting that because everything else seemed like it already been wrapped up. So that's one of those things where I'm really looking forward to watching when I watch these again, seeing that again, and just reading more about that because I feel like there's a lot going on in terms of where they're going,
Right.
and why
Which
and stuff like that. And I'm just so fucking
honestly,
interested, and I love that.
anyone listening to this and you know the
Comment.
answers to all of this, comment and let
us
us
know.
know because we have no fucking clue.
We never claim to be smart people. We just
no, we just watch movies and talk about it.
for
That's
some
it.
reason we were like, hey, we talk about movies a lot. We're gonna show everybody
we
us
just want
saying
everybody
wrong
to
things.
hear us talk about it, you know?
But yeah,
But yeah, so I guess I honestly we need to wrap this up because these poor people have been listening to us for way too long. But all of us love the movie. That's the end of the discussion. All of us loved all of these movies.
It
was
been
great.
such a fun fucking time watching this in IMAX with you guys.
It really has, and I feel like we could do this really quickly since we already went so long. What's an extra minute? Do y'all want to rank them in any kind of way, just like as a personal list? Because I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm very curious.
All right, let's just do real quick rankings. So you want to go first, Omar? I'm putting you on the spot.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Interesting. Matt?
I think coming off of this movie, I'm 3, 2, 1 as well, which is crazy because of how much I loved Two Towers. But I'm gonna be curious to rewatch them because Two Towers is right up there too. But this movie was just so epic and such a beautiful ending. And I still love one too. But God, yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
And I'm gonna say 2, 3, 1. Cause
Jesus, man, you took mine. I already knew I said the
I
wrong
knew
thing.
it.
I want that back.
I've been that way since I started these movies as a young little lad.
I can't be the Two Towers guy now.
laddie.
This fucking sucks. God.
So, but yeah, so that's how we're feeling on this. It doesn't matter because they're all fucking amazing. I've been cursing way too much again. God,
Yes.
everybody. But
I fucking love it.
but yeah,
I fucking
so
love
these
it.
movies is just so great. It just brings it out of me. So amazing. So nice to go on this journey with you guys. But also you
Oh.
people out there, do not forget, if you want to follow us on any socials, you can at Again Press on Twitter and at Press Play Again on Instagram, and listen to us and leave comments and questions and like us and give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, all those good places. Do that for us, and then follow us and like us on YouTube, and literally leave us comments and explain things to us because we're all idiots and don't know what we're talking
I
about.
really would be super interested in people ever saying anything in the comments, but especially for this movie because obviously I have a lot of questions.
Answer the
And,
questions this man needs.
You can yell at me
but
too. You can call
also,
me stupid. I'm bad at it.
Reminder as well. We got coming up Thursday. We're gonna be going over the infamous Omar Justice
Yeah.
League.
Nailed it.
Thursday. Be there. Be square. Be Joss Whedon.
Get ready for a
'cause, you know.
time.
Anyway, at
Joss
10 a.m.
Whedon does not want to
Thursday,
show up to this
it's
one.
gonna be there. And then on Fridays, we got our Fridays with Wanda and Vision, the finale. What a
done.
sad day, but what an
It's done.
exciting day.
Love
So
it.
until then, don't wear any rings.
Please don't. I can't find the stop button. Say something else awesome.
I'm a hobbit.
Woo!